Most visceral belly fat doesn't announce itself with a sudden pain or a dramatic symptom that sends you to the emergency room. For many seniors, it's just seen as a natural part of aging, the middle-age spread that everyone says is inevitable after the age of 60. But the terrifying reality is that visceral fat is not just fat. It is a highly active, inflammatory organ that is quietly secreting metabolic poison into your bloodstream every single hour of the day. By the time most people notice their waistline has expanded or their clothes are fitting tighter, they have already entered a state of chronic metabolic decay. And the scary part is that the damage usually begins exactly 60 minutes after you finish your last meal of the day, with habits that feel completely normal, completely socially acceptable, and, to the uninformed, completely harmless. My name is Dr. Robert Lee, and over the last 30 years working in metabolic health and senior longevity, I've watched thousands of patients arrive with stubborn belly fat, rising blood sugar, and a sense of heaviness that no diet seemed to fix. Now, what fascinates me isn't just the medical complexity of the liver or the pancreas, but the patterns, the same repeated behaviors, the same misconceptions about healthy evening snacks, and the same slow accumulation of visceral rot that nobody talks about until they are facing a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes or heart failure. So, what I want to share in this video is what I've learned in the clinic, the 1-hour reset that can shift your body from storage mode into repair mode literally while you sleep. And in return, if you find this information valuable, please consider subscribing to the channel because it directly helps these science-backed strategies reach more seniors who are currently being lied to by the low-fat food industry. So, here is what makes visceral fat particularly sneaky. Unlike the soft fat you can pinch under your skin, which we call subcutaneous fat, visceral fat is buried deep inside your abdominal cavity. It wraps itself around your liver, your kidneys, and your heart. It is like a biological strangler vine. It doesn't just sit there, it produces cytokines, inflammatory molecules that cause your arteries to stiffen and your brain cells to fog over. You can have a relatively thin frame and still have a metabolic blind spot where your internal organs are drowning in fat. People assume everything is okay because their weight is stable, but their blood sugar is quietly deteriorating beneath the surface. I check fasting insulin and liver markers in the vast majority of my senior patients, and in all honesty, it is rare for me to find a completely normal metabolic profile in someone over the age of 60 who eats a traditional healthy dinner. Most are already showing signs of artery rusting and DNA fraying caused by the 1-hour window after dinner. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens 60 minutes after you eat. I'm going to explain the physiological short circuit that happens when you sit on the couch after a meal. And most importantly, if you stay until the 4th minute of this video, I'm going to debunk the biggest myth about evening exercise that is actually causing your body to store more fat instead of burning it. First on the list today, and perhaps the most important for you to understand, is the postprandial glucose spike. When you finish dinner, even a healthy dinner of salmon, brown rice, and a small salad, your blood sugar begins to rise. This is normal, but here is where the 1-hour trap begins. About 45 to 60 minutes after your last bite, your blood glucose reaches its peak. At this exact moment, your body is making a critical decision. Should we use this sugar for energy, or should we store it as fat? If you are like most people, 60 minutes after dinner, you are sitting on the couch watching the news or reading a book. Your muscles are completely stationary. Because your muscles aren't asking for fuel, your pancreas has to flood your system with a massive surge of insulin to clear the sugar. For a 20-year-old, this is a minor event. But for someone over 60, your insulin sensitivity has already declined by nearly 40%. Your cells ignore the insulin. This forces your body to take that excess sugar and shove it into the easiest storage container available, your liver and your visceral fat cells. You are literally marinating your internal organs in sugar while you sit still. Moving on to number 2, which is the leading cause of stubborn belly fat in seniors, and that is the evening cortisol-insulin conflict. Many of you think that fat burning is just about calories in versus calories out. This is a kindergarten understanding of human biology. Fat burning is controlled by your hormones, specifically the relationship between insulin and growth hormone. As the sun goes down, your body should be preparing for repair. Your growth hormone should be rising to rebuild your muscle and your DNA. But if your insulin is high because you ate a late dinner or a healthy evening snack, your growth hormone is completely suppressed. You cannot burn visceral fat in the presence of high insulin. By sitting still 1 hour after dinner, you are extending that insulin spike late into the night. You are effectively locking your fat cells. Your body spends the entire night trying to process the sugar from dinner instead of doing the deep cleaning of your brain and heart. This is why you wake up feeling tired, even if you slept 8 hours. Your body didn't spend the night repairing, it spent the night managing a crisis. Number 3 on the list is the microcirculation shutdown. As we established in the leg weakness protocols, your blood flow is the delivery system for your health. When you eat a meal, your body directs a massive amount of blood to your digestive tract. This is the rest and digest state. However, if you stay completely sedentary 1 hour after dinner, that blood pools in the gut. Your circulation to your extremities, your brain, and your legs drops to a minimum. This creates a state of silent hypoxia in your distant tissues. But more importantly, it prevents your muscles from acting as the glucose sponge they are meant to be. Your muscles are the largest metabolic tissue in your body. They are the only tissue that can burn through a glucose spike without requiring a massive insulin release, but only if they are moving. By staying on the couch, you are turning off your primary metabolic furnace at the exact moment the fuel is arriving. This leads to the belly fat spiral, where your muscles get weaker, your insulin gets higher, and your visceral fat gets thicker every single night. Now, we come to the most critical part of this discussion, the part where I debunk the biggest myth about evening rest that is actually keeping you sick, tired, and fat. This is the post-dinner rest trap. For decades, you have been told that after a big meal, you should sit down, relax, and let your food digest. You've been told that exertion after eating is bad for the heart. I'm going to tell you right now, that advice is not just wrong. It is metabolically retarded for someone over the age of 60. Here is what is actually happening at a physiological level. When you sit still after dinner, your glucose sponge, your muscle tissue, goes completely offline. To get sugar out of your blood and into your muscles while you are sitting, your body must use insulin. But as we've established, your insulin is already struggling. This leads to what I call the visceral overflow. Since the muscle doors are locked, the sugar has nowhere to go but the liver. Your liver then converts that sugar into a specific type of fat called VLDL, which is then shipped off to be stored right around your waistline. What the research shows and what I've seen in my clinical practice is that the most effective way to melt this fat isn't a 2-hour gym session. It is the 10-minute metabolic walk, performed exactly 60 minutes after your last bite. Let me explain the science of the sponge. Your muscles have a secret doorway called GLUT4. Under normal conditions, this doorway only opens when insulin knocks, but there is a back door that opens without any insulin at all. Contraction. When you move your large muscle groups, your quads, your glutes, and your hamstrings, those GLUT4 transporters move to the surface of the cell and start vacuuming the sugar out of your blood. By walking for just 10 minutes at the 1-hour mark, you are bypassing your insulin resistance. You are clearing the artery sandpaper sugar before it can be stored as visceral fat. This is how you lower your blood sugar overnight. You aren't waiting for your body to manage the crisis while you sleep. You are resolving the crisis before your head even hits the pillow. Moving on to number 4 on the list, and this is the nitric oxide glow-up. Most seniors suffer from cold feet and heavy legs in the evening. This is a sign that your microcirculation is shut down. When you perform this 10-minute walk 1 hour after dinner, you trigger a massive surge in nitric oxide. As we've discussed in the knowledge base and our previous artery repair protocols, nitric oxide is the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax. When you walk after a meal, you are forcing oxygen-rich blood into the smallest capillaries of your legs and your brain. This doesn't just help with digestion, it prevents the nighttime hypoxia that leads to brain fog and memory loss. You are literally flushing the pipes while they are under the highest pressure of the day. But there is a specific way you must do this walk. If you go too hard, you trigger a stress response. If you go too light, you don't open the back door. I want you to follow the Dr. Robert Lee Zone 1 rule. This is a walk where you can still hold a conversation, but you feel a slight warmth in your skin. You are not trying to win a race. You are trying to signal to your mitochondria that the fuel is ready to be burned. This signal is what tells your body to produce glucagon, the sister hormone to insulin. Glucagon is the fat unlocking hormone. By walking 1 hour after dinner, you are telling your body, stop storing, start burning. Now let's talk about number 5, which for me is the most important one for your long-term survival, the overnight autophagy switch. We've talked about autophagy, the Nobel Prize-winning cellular cleanup, in our DNA repair scripts, but here is the connection to your belly fat. Visceral fat cells are filled with metabolic trash. They are inflammatory, they are old, and they are resistant to being burned. To get rid of visceral fat, your body needs to recycle the inflammatory cytokines inside them. When you do the 10-minute walk after dinner, you lower your insulin levels much faster than if you had stayed on the couch. Instead of having high insulin until 3 a.m., your insulin drops to baseline by 11 p.m. This gives your body an extra 4 hours of deep repair time. While you are in REM sleep, your body is no longer fighting a sugar fire. It is finally able to enter the visceral fat cells and start the scrubbing process. This is the only way to melt fat overnight. You are extending your autophagy window without having to fast for days on end. What you need to understand is that belly fat is a hormonal problem, not a calorie problem. If you have chronically elevated insulin, you could eat 1,000 calories a day and still have a pot belly. Your body is stuck in storage mode. The 1 hour reset is the manual override. You are taking the keys away from the food industry and the healthy carbohydrate lies, and you are putting them back in your own hands. Moving on to number 6, which requires a bit of nuance because this is where a lot of confusion exists in the senior health niche, the evening protein conflict. I tell all my patients that they need 30 grams of protein at dinner to prevent sarcopenia, muscle wasting. But protein, while essential, also raises insulin. If you eat a high-protein dinner and then go straight to bed, you are creating a slow-burn insulin spike that lasts for hours. This is why many health-conscious seniors can't lose the belly fat. They are doing the healthy thing by eating protein, but they are doing it at the wrong time without the right movement. By performing the 10-minute walk, you are ensuring that those amino acids from your steak or your fish go toward muscle repair instead of being converted into glucose via gluconeogenesis and stored as belly fat. You are anchoring the protein into your structure instead of letting it float around and trigger inflammation. Looking across all these factors, you should notice a pattern. Every single one of these belly fat triggers, the glucose spikes, the insulin noise, the microcirculation shutdown, is a mechanical and metabolic stress that is repeated 365 days a year. Belly fat isn't random bad luck. It is the result of your body being idled when the engine is full of fuel. Sitting on the couch reduces protective blood flow. High blood sugar creates artery sandpaper. Dehydration shrivels your cells and prevents fat transport. Late-night snacking locks the fat cells for the entire night. Different mechanisms, the same endpoint, a shrunken brain, and a swollen waistline. So what do you actually do with this information? Well, if you are at risk, meaning you have a waist circumference larger than 40 inches for men or 35 inches for women, or if you are over the age of 60, then you need to start the Dr. Robert Lee 1-hour challenge. This brings us to the most overlooked organ in the entire visceral fat equation, and it isn't your stomach, it is your liver. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Your liver is the grand central station of your metabolism. Every gram of sugar, every healthy carbohydrate, and every drop of alcohol you consume must be processed by the liver. When you finish dinner and sit on the couch, your liver is suddenly overwhelmed. It is trying to manage the glucose spike while also trying to detoxify your blood. When the liver's glycogen stores are full, which happens very quickly in seniors, it begins a process called de novo lipogenesis. It literally starts manufacturing fat out of thin air. This fat doesn't just stay in the liver, it spills over into the surrounding area. This is the origin of visceral fat. By the time you see a belly in the mirror, your liver is likely already fatty and struggling to breathe. The 10-minute walk 1 hour after dinner is the liver pressure relief valve. By activating your muscles, you are pulling the glucose out of the blood before the liver has to convert it into fat. You are essentially emptying the warehouse so the liver can focus on its nighttime job, detoxification and DNA repair. If you skip this walk, you are forcing your liver to stay in fat factory mode all night long. This is why so many seniors have high fasting blood sugar in the morning, the dawn phenomenon. Your liver spent the whole night struggling with the dinner backlog, and by 4 a.m., it began dumping sugar into your blood just to survive. Now let's talk about the nighttime microsuffocation. Visceral fat is heavy. When you lie down to sleep, that internal fat presses up against your diaphragm. It restricts the expansion of your lungs. This leads to what we call silent sleep apnea, where your oxygen levels dip just enough to trigger a stress response, but not enough to wake you up. When your oxygen levels dip, your body releases cortisol. And as we established in our brain repair protocols, cortisol is the fat storage switch. This creates a vicious, deadly cycle. The belly fat causes the stress response, and the stress response causes more belly fat. This is why you can eat healthy and still wake up with a thicker waistline. By performing the 1-hour reset, you are lowering the systemic inflammation before you lie down. You are thinning the blood and opening the arteries, ensuring that your oxygen delivery stays stable throughout the night. This allows you to enter deep slow-wave sleep, the only stage where your body releases the growth hormone needed to actually mobilize and melt that visceral fat. Without deep sleep, fat loss is biologically impossible. This leads us to the magnesium and mineral secret for nightly fat burning. Many of you are deficient in magnesium, the master relaxer of the metabolic system. Magnesium is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions, including the one that tells your fat cells to release their energy. When you are stressed, inflamed, and sedentary after dinner, you burn through your magnesium stores just to keep your heart rhythm stable. I want you to combine the 10-minute walk with the Dr. Robert Lee evening hydration. 60 minutes after your walk, drink 8 ounces of warm water with a pinch of natural sea salt and a squeeze of lime. The minerals in the salt provide the electrical charge your mitochondria need to stay in burn mode during sleep. The lime provides the flavonoids to protect your liver from oxidative stress while it's cleaning house. This is how you lower blood sugar overnight. You are giving your body the electrolytes to maintain the metabolic fire while the lights are out. But here is the hard truth. You cannot walk off a toxic dinner. If you are eating healthy whole grain pasta, drinking heart-healthy fruit juice, or finishing the night with a low-fat yogurt, you are creating a sugar fire that no 10-minute walk can extinguish. You must follow the artery-belly synergy. Your dinners should be anchored in protein and healthy fats, the forbidden fats like grass-fed butter or avocado oil that satisfy your brain and keep your insulin quiet. Use the walk as the manual override for any carbohydrates you did consume. This is the Dr. Robert Lee system for total metabolic dominance. Let's talk about the 7-day visceral melt challenge. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to feel the difference in your own waistband. Starting tonight, I want you to follow this exact sequence. Finish dinner by 7:00 p.m. This gives your body time to begin the digestive process before the 1-hour trap begins. 60 minutes later, step outside. Set your timer for exactly 10 minutes. The Zone 1 walk. Walk at a pace where you can breathe through your nose. Do not mouth breathe. As we discussed in our brain repair modules, nasal breathing produces nitric oxide, which is essential for fat transport. The mindful contraction. While walking, intentionally engage your core. Don't just stroll. Move with purpose. This increases the GLUT4 backdoor activation in your abdominal muscles. The mineral anchor. Upon returning, drink your mineralized water. No snacks, no healthy fruit, nothing but water and minerals until morning. By day 3, the morning puffiness in your face and hands will disappear. This is the inflammation leaving your system. By day 5, the dawn phenomenon blood sugar spike will begin to flatten, and by day 7, you will notice that your leg heaviness has lifted because your microcirculation is finally reaching the end of the hose. This is not a weight loss hack. This is metabolic restoration. Most of you have been told that your belly is a sign of laziness. It isn't. It is a sign of metabolic mismatch. You are living in a world that sells you healthy sugar and tells you to rest when you should be moving. You have been betrayed by the food marketing machine, and your visceral fat is the physical evidence of that betrayal. But you have the power to flip the switch. Your body wants to be lean. Your liver wants to be clean. Your DNA wants to be repaired. It is just waiting for the right instruction. The 10-minute walk 1 hour after dinner is that instruction. It is the command that tells your body, We are no longer storing fat, we are now rebuilding a masterpiece. And for those of you who are worried that your legs are too weak to even do a 10-minute walk, I have a message for you. This weakness is the very reason you must start. The fat in your belly is starving your legs of oxygen. As you melt the visceral fat, your leg arteries will reopen and your balance will return. Stay tuned for my next video, because I am going to reveal the 10-second leg and balance test that can predict a heart or brain event up to 5 years before it happens. If you fail that test, your metabolic decay is already in the advanced stages, and the 1-hour reset isn't just a challenge, it is your lifeline. If this video added value to your life, like it and share it with one person you care about. We are losing a generation of seniors to preventable silent diseases, and the truth is the only cure. I am Dr. Robert Lee. Your metabolism is not broken. It is just misinformed. Start the 1-hour reset tonight and watch your body transform overnight. Stay strong, stay flexible, and never stop repairing.